On the night of August 21st, 1990, paramedics and dispatchers with Camden County EMS gathered at the Emergency Dispatch Center in Kingsland, Georgia, for a most unlikely event.
Camden County Emergency Service.
We were getting ready. We were real excited because we were having a wedding shower for two of the people that work here.
Paramedic Supervisor Renee Taylor was on duty, along with dispatcher Bobby Lee and a relief dispatcher.
Bobby had not felt well that day, but seemed to feel a little better toward the evening. She got the most peculiar look on her face.
I don't feel good, but I'm getting very dizzy.
And she said, "I think you're going to lose me." I thought she was going to faint. She looked like she was going to faint. And I went down the hall to get a wet towel for her.
Tina, come here. Tina!
I was in the kitchen talking to my fiancé, Mike, and when I first walked into the room, it took me a minute to picture what was going on.
I got her head, got her feet. Yeah.
Bobby, hey, talk to me, Bobby.
Come on, Bobby. Call Danny.
I called Danny on the intercom.
EMS Director Danny Daniels was in his office across the street.
I told him to come over there. We need him.
Talk to me.
Bobby. All right, be right over.
By the time I got back with the wet towel, Bobby was obviously completely unconscious.
Bobby's down.
What's wrong with her?
I ran over to the other side not knowing what was going on.
Come on, Bobby, say something to us.
She was unresponsive. It was obvious she was having a seizure and the problems associated with that.
What's her blood pressure? 190 over 160.
We found out that her blood pressure was elevated. Get me a drug box and a glucometer.
Okay.
When I realized that Bobby was in such a critical medical emergency, I wanted to fly her out on a helicopter.
Lifeguard. Yes, this is Camden Emergency Services. Can you fly?
The nearest hospital was 50 miles away.
It's our dispatcher. She's down at this time.
Life Flight was called first, and they put us on hold to check the weather.
But the Life Flight helicopter was grounded because of stormy weather.
She had projectile vomiting, and I knew this lady was in critical condition. I went to another phone, called St. Luke's Hospital in Jacksonville.
St. Luke's emergency room.
The ER doctor on duty agreed with Danny that the immediate problem was Bobby's dangerously high blood pressure. He prescribed appropriate medication.
Okay.
Can you move your toes okay?
After I received the orders, we started IVs, gave her drugs. She became more and more lucid or conscious as time proceeded.
Tina,
The drug Procardia was administered, and preparations were made to transport her to the hospital by ambulance.
She got to where she could talk to us, respond to us a little bit. And then I said, "Bobby, how do you feel?"
Hands up there.
She had to be treated rapidly and aggressively in order to keep this problem from extending or becoming worse.
Bobby will give you a good ride to the hospital, honey.
So we knew we had a 45-minute drive. We knew we had to get going quickly.
We were all in shock. Like, this did not really happen. It just never occurs to us that one of us could go down. And it was a strange feeling. It really was.
On the way, Renee and Danny kept the hospital informed about Bobby's condition.
I watched her EKG because we still were not 100% sure she had stroke. And sometimes cardiac dysrhythmias can cause people to be unconscious and have seizures.
Renee, how's Bobby doing back there?
My thoughts were positive thoughts that I wanted her to live, and therefore I wouldn't allow myself to lapse to a negativism and reflect that to her. But I was extremely fearful that Bobby may not survive this calamity and be back a part of us again.
The ambulance arrived at St. Luke's Hospital, where Bobby was admitted under the care of Dr. Jerry Budd.
When she arrived at the hospital, her condition was very critical. She was at a very high risk of dying from either a heart problem or a brain problem. At that point, I still couldn't tell which it was without further testing. You have any chest pain?
No, sir.
Neck pain? She told me that she had had a mild headache, but felt terribly nauseated, and she felt like she wanted to vomit.
While doctors examined Bobby, her husband Dan, an airport police officer, waited for word.
I think he was in shock. A lot of hospitals, a lot of emergency rooms don't allow family members back, but I seized the opportunity, just went and got him myself and brought him back there to see her. In the back of my mind, I had to think, you know, I don't know that 2 hours from now she won't be dead and that he didn't get to see her.
I first saw her in the emergency room, and we were talking. Of course, tried not to, let her know that I was afraid. It's hard when you've been married to someone to sort of, I guess, put on a straight face, because you know that they know exactly what you're thinking. But in all truthfulness, I thought that probably by tomorrow or whatever with this, that I would be alone, that I was fixing to lose my wife.
When she had the CAT scan, it was noted that she had had bleeding around the covering of the brain. The most likely cause of something like that in a lady of her age would have been what we call a subarachnoid hemorrhage, which is usually due to an aneurysm of one of the arteries in the brain.
A subarachnoid hemorrhage is a potentially fatal problem. Unrecognized, it can have a mortality of 50%.
A team of doctors led by neurosurgeon Mark Spatola performed microsurgery on her brain.
Bobby underwent a craniotomy, or an opening into her skull. We were able to get inside of her head and work around the brain to be able to locate the blood vessel that had bled, and then we're able to put a clip onto the aneurysm, all of this being done under the operating microscope.
The delicate surgery took 4 hours to complete. Two months later, Bobby Lee has almost completely recovered and is ready to return to work.
Go to Grandma.
My family means more to me. My friends mean more to me. I've given out a lot more hugs. I'm a hugger and a toucher anyway, but I think I've given out an abundance of hugs because I'm just so glad to be able to hug them. Everything happens for a reason, and I really believe that everything happened the way it did because it was meant for Bobby to make it.
I feel good, too. I'm ready. Look at her.
Every fire and rescue organization in the United States feels a degree of family because of the fact that we have to look life and death in the face every day that we're on duty. And therefore, it kind of draws you together as a family unit because we may not be here tomorrow. And we know that because we see it every day in our jobs.
They're responsible really for saving her life. To say thank you seems very small, but that's about all we can say is thank you very much.
They did the same thing for me that they would have done for anyone else. I love you all very much, and I thank you for my life. You'll always be in my heart.